Thank you, Randy. Thank all of you guys for being here as well. This is a pretty special night, I think. I also want to thank Mark Nathan, who has treated me like a comic professional long before I actually was one. So I only met Mike Ringo one time. It was after an award ceremony here in Baltimore. I saw him standing with some people that I knew, Craig Russo and Todd DeZago. I was very nervous. I knew what Mike was in this industry, and I was a fledgling creator. I think it was my first year of publishing a comic. And I very nervously thought, if I go up when Craig's there, and Todd's there, I can say hello and I can meet Mike. I was nervous. He was very kind. And deciding that discretion was the better part of valor, I exited from the conversation rather quickly before I screwed it up. And I felt good about that until I found out later from Craig that they continued to talk about Mouse Guard. And Mike was saying how great it was. And I missed that. And I know from other professionals that Mike reached out and talked to creators regularly. On the phone, they'd talk craft, they'd talk about things that excited them. And I wish I had stuck with that conversation outside of the awards ceremony a little longer, because maybe it would have gotten me my foot in the door where I could have gotten a call, or where I could have made a call. Because I know that conversations with Michael Ringo about making comics would have made Mouse Guard better. And I regret that I didn't get that chance. Mike, to this industry, I think represents fun, with an art style that welcomes in every reader. There are no barriers to his artwork. There's nothing about his artwork that says that this is sexist, this is for men, this is for women, this is for children, this is for adults. It was as inclusive as you could possibly be. And it was hopeful. It was optimistic, but without ever feeling candy-coated. I found out recently, talking to Mark at Heroes Con, about an anecdote that I'll share kind of vicariously through them, that Mark was talking with Matt Waringo about Mike getting up at almost every convention and wandering the entire artist alley. And he would walk up to unknowns, he would walk up to professionals, he'd talk with them about their books, and he'd buy their books. Not just published known works, but low print run things, self-published things, hand-stapled zines, anything he could get his hands on. And Mark asked Matt, why did he do that? Was it just the collector in him? Was Mike a closet hoarder, like probably many of us are? And Matt said no. What Mike was doing was trying to learn. That he thought that out there could be a better answer for any solution to how to tell a story. And that Mike was not above the idea of looking at someone just starting out, that they might have the best answer for how to tell a story. And speaking of looking to other places and taking good ideas, years ago at an award ceremony here in Baltimore, Ross Ritchie gave a keynote speech. This was the year before Ross Ritchie, who's the president of Boom, bought Archaea, which publishes Mouse Guard. And Ross gave a speech that stuck with me. And I called Ross before I did this, before I started writing my speech, and I said, I'm going to use part of your speech as part of the backbone of mine if you're comfortable with that. And he said, that's fine. He was honored. But I told him that the reason for that is it's something that I've literally carried with me. I think about a portion of that speech probably once a month. So just be known that I'm cribbing this part from Ross Ritchie. If you knew someone who had never listened to a piece of music, or had never read a novel, or had never watched a television show, said they had never stepped foot in the cinema or watched a minute of film, you would say, that person is weird. You would think that person's crazy. You would do everything in your power to start suggesting movies and music and poetry and whatever it is that they're missing in their life, you would try it. And when you give them Madonna's Greatest Hits as their music influence, and they're like, this doesn't do it for me, you wouldn't stop. You'd be like, maybe they like jazz, maybe classical, who knows? But you would keep trying because it's weird that they wouldn't be consuming something that's a method of humans communicating emotion to other humans. Every one of us in this room, including myself, have people in our lives that don't and won't read comics. And we all treat that like it's okay and normal. We might try a little, we might give them a thing, but when they don't do it, you go, maybe comics isn't their thing. Well, we should be doing a better job. Like Mike trying to look around, we should be doing better. Comics are a medium for telling stories, as we all know, and comics are just as valid as any other form of medium for telling a story. We're all storytellers in this room. Writers and artists obviously get a lot of the credit. Colorists and letterers don't get enough of the credit, but they clearly guide our eye through those pages and show us where to look and where not to look. Yes, letterers and colorists. Editors and publishers are storytellers, and shop owners and retailers are storytellers, because when somebody comes into your shop and they say, I like this comic, but it ended and I need something new, the way you sell it to them is you explain that comic. You tell them a story, whether it's the story of who the creators are and why they're so cool and you should be reading this book, or what the book is actually about. We're all storytellers in this room. And comics are stories. All humans love stories. We always have. We've been painting them on cave walls and doing every other way of telling a story since. So someone who says they don't like comics is almost saying they don't like stories. And I don't buy it. They haven't been exposed to the right material yet. Every medium has its strengths and weaknesses. Long format TV can do things that film can't. Poetry can do things that novels can't, and vice versa. Whether it's music or theater, they all have something that works really well for them and something that they can't do quite as well. But no one of them does everything better. And there are things that comics can do better than any other medium. And I bring that up because as a guy who has a movie deal for Mouse Guard going on right now, I'm very excited about the translation of Mouse Guard to film. No one wants to see those mice on the screen more than me. That being said, we all need to stop acting like TV and film is the apex of the creative pyramid.
Yeah.
There is no top, there is no bottom. We need to validate ourselves. Mouse Guard, I think, was a good book before that movie deal. And I think if it had never gotten a movie deal, it still would have been a good book, or at least as good of a book as I made it. And after the movie, no matter what it does, it's going to continue to be the book that I make. So why are we using something else that's a completely different metric to measure against ourselves? We don't need to validate comics by comparing them to movies. We need to expose people to comics because the validation is in the work. We can be better by treating ourselves better, and not as a pat ourselves on the back moment, but in a way that we convey what we do to those who don't yet know what we do. Movies and TV are so often compared to comics because of the similarity in visual medium. I get it. Storyboards that make films look like comics that are comics. But instead of focusing and celebrating the things that are similar about comics and film and TV, why don't we look at the things that they do different? Why don't we look at the things that we do better and try to sell those to these new readers that we need to be attracting in? The ones that Mike made sure when he drew there were no barriers to reaching with his artwork. Now, if we start getting new readers, we're going to need to have books for these new readers. Good news, we have them. I have been saying this for a long time. There is a book out there right now for every kind of person, no matter what their interests are in other movies, TV, film, books, poetry, music. There is some kind of similarity in a book that's out there right now. I have a book that ends up welcoming in a lot of new readers. I have a lot of people coming up to my table at conventions who are first-time comic readers. They discovered Mouse Guard, and in addition to coming to buy to see me, they ask me, what do I do next? This room is scary. I don't know where else I should be going. So I have personal experience recommending next step books by asking the question, either what else do you consume as media, or what is it that you like about my book? I get a lot of wives, girlfriends, kids, non-comic readers asking about the what's next. And I love exposing people to the idea of comics that they never even knew existed, because there's one classification of comics that tends to get a lot of attention in our industry. But I like showing them that there are emotional comics, there are soft-spoken comics, there are horror comics that are blood and guts, and there are horror comics that are suspense. There's autobiographical comics. Every category that's in a library or at a Blockbuster, I'm dating myself there, on Netflix, exists in comics and then some. My two favorite books or book series that I like to recommend are nonfiction comics. One is Bone Sharks, Cowboys, and Thunder Lizards, a nonfiction retelling of dueling paleontologists before there were laws on how digs could be done and how they tried to sabotage one another. And probably just like a lot of you go, what, that comic exists? That's awesome. And the other one is Rick Geary's series, A Treasury of Victorian Murder. They are nonfiction case files of actual cases. He follows them through all of the facts. If there's a red herring, he'll take you as far as he can with it and then say, but that's all the information we have. And when people who are wives and mothers and people who aren't into all the other stuff that comics has so much to offer, they go, what? Those comics exist? Where? Can you spell Geary for me? Bone Sharps and what? We have a bigger diversity of genre and style and creators and readers and format than I think we ever have before. Now, full disclosure, I did no research into that statement. I have zero facts to back that up. But I've been coming to conventions for 12 years, and it's anecdotal evidence, but I've seen these conventions change. I've seen who's behind the tables change. I've seen the work change. I've seen the banners change. I've seen the crowd change. I've seen the panels change. I think that's a pretty good metric that we have more diversity. We have more ethnic groups, more genders, more types of books than we've ever had before. And we have a broader way to market and distribute comics than ever before because of digital technologies. So that's all great, right? But like Mike, can't we do better? I'm not scolding or chastising anyone in this room. I'm an artist, I'm a storyteller. I'm always looking to do better. I don't hate my old work, but I always see the flaws. And I want to continue to grow, and I always want to be better. So, in the spirit of Mike Ringo, on this night, where we are about to celebrate our medium, which we should be celebrating, and we should be sharing in our celebration with everyone in our lives who has never participated in our medium, I wanted to encourage us all to be proud of where we are, and, like Mike, searching through Artist Alley, looking for new material, looking for inspiration, and looking to be better. I want us all to do what the nominees have done here tonight. Produce good work, celebrate that work, and share it with every other person that we can. So that comics can grow not just by its sales, not just by its readership, but by its appreciation. Thank you.